お父さんお母さんに点数をつけるとしたら何点かな？
100点満点です。父も母も面白くて大好きです。ずっと一緒がいいです。
じゃあ今のママと前のママどっちが高得点だ？
オーニョ、所詮まがいものの家族、
些細なことです。
なんということもない。
よし、
我慢だ、黄昏。
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Castaway Anime. I'm NeonManta.
And I'm Crunchy Bagels.
And today, we're doing a little sneaking, a little sleuthing, a little spying with Spy X Family, the hot new shit of the season.
It's the show that everybody's been completely going crazy over. What's the mouse score at? Is it still at like 9.9?
I'm pretty sure it's still over 9. Let me check Mal
I know it's been
right now.
very consistent.
9.06 at the time of this recording.
While it fell by 0.03, Spy X Family really fell off. Don't you agree, NeonManta? It fell off.
If you're talking about between, are you channeling your inner casual right now?
Yeah.
Are you doing a casual impression?
It fell
Or
by
are you just being
0.03.
generally British because I think
I'm being
I think the
generally-
show takes place in like fantasy Britain?
I'm just being an idiot, which yes, also means being British.
I'm just being racist. It's okay, you can't be racist to the British.
No, you can. It's just that they deserve it.
You can't be racist to a race that deserves no rights.
Exactly. We've gotten way off topic really quick.
Literally, what the fuck was I saying? Oh yeah, if you're talking about Spy X Family falling off between the seasonal impression podcast and now, quite the opposite. It's gotten better.
Yeah, that was mostly me memeing about how the score fell by 0.03, which is barely anything.
I still think that the show's way too. I wouldn't say that the show is not worthy of a 9 out of 10 overall at this point, but it's weird to have such universal praise for this show before it's even finished. Like, it should not be in the top, top 10 of all anime of all time on Mal right now. And it's not even done yet. That brings my piss to a boil. That's like when fucking stupid-ass Crunchyroll gave Jujutsu Kaisen Anime of the Year, and it wasn't even finished yet.
People do have a habit of hyping up anime a lot. This is a phenomenon basically every season where one anime gets like an absurdly high score, and you know it's gonna fall, right? Like Spy Family is going to have like, if I just had to guess, probably like around an 8.7, 8.8 once it's actually done airing. Because I mean, Dress Up Darling had like 8.6, like high 8.6, I think, while it was airing. Did it ever get higher than that?
I'm not sure. I think Mal has a stat page, but let me check what the score is currently at.
Yeah, it's at 8.3.
It's currently sitting at a 8.38, which is still very good.
It's good, but the point is that was the hyped show of its season, and it kind of fell off. And same with. I'm meaning.
Are you
score.
talking falling off in
score,
terms of like
yeah.
general?
Not
okay,
in general
I was gonna
quality.
say because in terms of quality, I would argue that it stayed really good throughout the whole time.
Yeah, I mean, we did the entire podcast, and I agree with that. And then Spy Family, you know it's gonna lower in score. But personally, all right, so I have a confession to make. So during the My Dress Up Darling, obviously you were praising it a ton. And I was also praising it. I was giving it a 7 out of 10, but you were giving it like a 9 out of 10. And so I felt like you were outpraising me, or outpraising it the entire time. This podcast, I have come in with a goal. I am a man with a mission. I am going to outpraise Spy Family because, god damn it, I love this show, and I'm certain I love it more than you. I'm dead certain that I can outstand.
You're fucking certain. All right, well, fuck you, Crunchy. What if I said it's my favorite show of all time? Huh?
Well,
I mean, it's not
fuck
done
you.
yet, so I won't. But
What if I said it's my favorite test show of all time? I'm gonna out favorite
Test show.
That's a word. Probably.
Oh, favorite test. I thought you
Yeah.
said like test show as in 2 words.
Oh.
I was like, what the fuck are you talking about, Jesse? But no, yeah, Spy X Family. Once again, like we said, Mal score, like the inflated Mal score aside, Spy X Family deserves the hype.
Yep.
'Cause
Overall,
I've been
I'd
having
say
a blast.
it definitely deserves it. It is insanely good.
Yes, and I do want to address a comment that was left on the seasonal part 1 podcast. That is the only part of the spring podcast that's uploaded to the channel at the time of this recording. From one of our fans saying that he adores how we provided, in his own words, the only nuanced discussion of Spy X Family, and we're able to praise the show without just like sucking it off. And treating it like, in his words, the second coming of Christ.
Yeah. I feel like I feel like it's gonna be hard to live up to that comment because I love it so much, and I'm probably
I
going
mean,
to
I
be
love it too. I mean,
nutting over it the entire time. I
yeah,
guess I
which
do
is why
have some very minor
the purpose.
criticism, but like,
I was gonna say the purpose that I wanted to bring up that comment first and foremost is that I say we should start with like the issues with Spy X Family first before we just fucking like headfirst swan dive into just sucking it off until it cooms. The coom covers the walls.
all right, so I guess we're going to be recapping a little from the seasonal podcast because this is episodes 2 through 7. So the one criticism
Yes.
that I'd say the one major criticism you had, and I'm not talking like CG or visuals, I'm talking like in terms of writing. You had this criticism about where like it's very, so basically at the end of episode 2, there's this scene where like if I recall correctly, Lloyd's, escaping these guys, and there's like being grenades thrown and stuff, and it's like this all-out action scene. He's like, oh yeah, I this is just normal psychiatrist stuff. And Yor just buys it. And you said that was a little not really realistic, and I agree with that criticism overall.
I like, yeah, my issue with it is that they didn't really, I think the intention was to hard sell that she's not very world wary and doesn't know how like things work, because she's probably like sheltered as a kid and only knows assassin stuff, which is still weird that she works as a civil servant where you kind of need to know a little about the world to directly participate in society like that. But maybe like, if I feel like they need to do a better job of selling us on your sheltered childhood, which maybe they'll do in the later episodes. They have not done it so far in these first 7.
And I think
there's still time.
Yeah, I think that's a completely fair criticism, and I agree with it. And I'd say overall, that's like the only major scene where it's like that could have been a little better done, a little better written.
Yeah, like it's especially weird that like someone like an assassin would have got someone, they were straight up firing guns at him, and she was like, "Hey, this is like a deadly situation, right?" And then surely she's must have been in a situation in her profession where she's been fired at before too.
Yeah. It's definitely a hard
only imagine.
balancing act to do with like the airheaded assassin, where they need to be worldly enough to, successfully pull off this job, but they also, aren't, they can't be so worldly that it's like, oh, well then they aren't really the airheaded unworldly assassin anymore. So I don't know. I guess this is the one part where they sort of mess up the balancing act, and maybe they can retroactively fix it. Like, maybe.
It's cute when she kicks that dish from the dinner party out of the air and then like bounces on her legs. And it's cute when she does that and she doesn't think that it's bad like manners until Lloyd points it out to her. But she's like completely caught unaware. It's not really that cute when they're straight up chucking a grenade at her, and it's like, oh wow, your patients must be having an incredibly violent episode.
Oh god. I mean, maybe I can
Not to
buy
say
it.
that it's a deal breaker.
Yeah,
but it's just
definitely
kind
not
of weird.
a deal breaker. Yeah, and I wouldn't even say it's like a plot hole. Like it's not a plot hole. It's just a little weird and
A loose end
Yeah.
that should be tied up before the end of the season.
yeah,
at least.
exactly. And then I guess
then you did skip over. Well, not skip over. You did bring attention to it, but we definitely got to talk about the actual worst part of Spy X Family, the CG crowds and pedestrians. Why are they so fucking persistent throughout the entire show?
I wouldn't say they're so persistent because there are some shows that just go ham on the CG where it's like, okay, every background character is CGI now. But
they don't do it for every shot where
Yeah.
there are pedestrians in the background, but when they do, it makes no fucking sense. Cause like there are times like I was watching this episode 6, where Anya and you're hanging out in the park after she just got her new school uniform, and there's like 4 background characters that like off in the distance where like they're so far off you could just draw like low detail models. And they could just have them like do like a really basic walk
vomit
cycle.
pixels
No, but
everywhere.
there's
and they'd look
they
vaguely
might as
like
well
humans.
be pixels, but they're CG, and it's like this is supposed to be Wit and Cloverworks, 2 of the top studios in the game right now, especially motherfucking Wit, who's like are known for making beautiful, well animated looking shows. So what's the deal?
Overall, I'd say that the CG doesn't annoy me that much, but
I mean,
like when it's just a single shot, right? It's like, okay, I can live with that. But there are some episodes where they begin to just
where it's multiple.
constantly, like, yeah, where it's like persistent throughout. The main one I noticed in is actually episode 7, the most recent one as of recording.
Was it the
this.
school with the students?
Yeah, like
Was it the shot of the students walking out of that onto that little outdoor hallway on the pavement, and then it cuts to them in 2D?
yeah, that
Like,
scene.
it's an establishing shot of them walking out, and then it's like a mid shot.
Yeah, there's that, but then there's also like this one shot where it's sort of overhead. I think it might be from Lloyd's perspective, right? And then it's just all the students walking into this sort of overhanging arch, and they're all CG. And then there's this one where it's like a sort of an establishing shot of the school, and the children are walking up the stairs, and they're CG. It's just all over the episode. But the one you pointed out was definitely the worst offender of them all, because that isn't just like, oh, background characters. That's like an establishing shot. It is very jarring.
And they're not far off in the distance. They're like
Yeah.
they're like the focus of the shot, the focus of the scene.
Yeah, they're basically
it just
right
makes
there
it-
in the center of the scene, like right there. In the
I
focus.
can't call it bad directing. I just call it like a very poor decision to cut directly from our characters that we're focusing on from CG to 2D.
I just wish this show had like the raw consistency of something like a KyoAni show. Like,
And like you know what the damnedest thing is? The best episode, and this is no coincidence by the way, the best episode, and I think you might agree with me, episode 5 has no CG crowd shots, or if they did, I did not notice them.
I don't remember any in episode 5 specifically. I did like episode 5 a lot. I'm not sure if it's my favorite, because there are some parts that I really like, especially in episode 7, which, to be fair, that might be just recency bias. But I was like all over episode 7, except for the CG crowd shots. Those suck, but
Every episode has a really fucking good moment. This is one of
Yeah.
those. This is one of those shows where like it deserves the hype because every episode will leave you with something to be like, oh yeah, this is why like people should be watching this. This is like something worth talking about.
every episode is a very fulfilling, wholesome experience, and like, okay, so I think that's all in terms of negatives, right? Trying to think.
I'm trying to think of any more negatives.
actually hate.
I have a former negative complaint that's becoming a positive point. Before in the podcast, I felt like I said Anya was not yet fully fleshed out as a character to me, and more like just a cute little girl.
Yeah, you
that's
definitely
just like
said
kind of like a mascot.
Yeah.
And Anya has now grown more into her own. She's becoming more of a character, less of a of a mascot and more of an actual character with layers and complexity to her.
Yeah, with this,
I think my favorite.
Yeah, go on.
I think my favorite moment that best exemplifies this is in episode 6, where which I know I said episode 5 is my favorite, but I swear to God, I felt like episode 6 was like double length because it was so fucking packed and dense with things happening, and like it moves the story along so much in such a short amount of time that I felt like I was watching 2 episodes at once, or 2 episodes worth of content in the span of 1 episode's length. And then my favorite moment with Anya is when she's after she got kidnapped by those thugs by the grocery store, and then Yor teaches her to fight so that way she can fend for herself, which it would never fucking work against thugs, but it'll work against school, or it should, like, she thinks it'll help her in school.
Yeah.
And then the best moment, it's a 1-2 punch, haha, moment where at first she's taught by Yorda, don't like lead with your emotions. You'll be the bigger girl, the bigger person if you just smile when someone's being mean to you. And then when she's getting bullied by the rich folk, and be like, haha, poor common peasant girl, ugly, stupid. And even though she wants to do something about it, she just looks down and then remembers her mother's words and then looks up and she makes the fucking meme face. Which she'll now make for the rest of the show.
Oh god, that was an amazing episode.
The reaction image, the ultimate reaction image, .png.
And it seems like Anya is going to pretty much, like, for this arc, be the main character in a sense, because she's the one going to school and, you know, sort of executing the plan. Her actions right now have the most weight on the plot of the show.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
And I think that's really good because it takes her out of the role of just being there to be cute and puts her into the role of the outright protagonist of the show. And she starts to have a lot more personality, I think, when she's at school. Like, you know, she's got a little bit of a prankster side to her. You know, she's willing to deck someone in the face. She's not always cute and innocent. Sometimes she can just deck people.
And I really love that it was maybe I might be misremembering it, but it's when Damien started talking shit about her dad. Was it her dad or her parents? Both her parents.
I can't remember.
I want to say it was like talking shit about her dad, and then it just like ignites the fire in her eyes, and then she just looks up and straight fucking right hooks him across the face.
Oh god, that scene. I've already seen it clipped on YouTube and then put in my recommended. It's such a great scene. Honestly,
and
episode 6 on the whole was just like Anya fully came to her into her own during that episode. The meme face, the punch, just generally her thoughts and reactions and the emotions she's dealing with during that episode are really intriguing and really hooked me into the scene.
I love how I was gonna say, I love how she turns it around on the bullies by saying, like, do you have any proof that I did this? After they use that same line on her when they're throwing like paper balls at her and just being mean to her, insulting her.
Yeah. I wanna. Are you basically done talking about the scene?
Yeah.
All right, because I want to backtrack just a little bit and talk about the show's visual quality on the whole, because we did talk about this a little bit in the seasonal cast.
Yeah, that's part of the reason why I'm so mad about the CG existing, because if all you did was take out the CG, you would have one of the best looking TV anime we've gotten in a long time, in terms of consistency in both the art and animation.
That's what I really, really like about Spy Family. It is very consistent with its visual, except for the CG. Except that there's always that asterisk there.
That's why it hurts the most, because I can't say that, oh man, Spy X Family is one of the best looking shows I've ever seen. There's like a massive fucking 200 point of font asterisk right next to that statement, being like, oh yeah, if you don't mind this hideous ass CG that doesn't need to be there. It happens so infrequently. It's not like a piece of shit show by some mid to low tier studio where it's like constant CG crowd shots because they straight up don't have the talent or the staff with the chops to just have a lot of 2D crowd shots.
All right, so
It doesn't make any sense to me.
I think you'll agree with me when I say that, like, okay, so for every CG crowd shot, if the studio just replaced that with like literally a still frame of people existing and talking to each other, which I imagine would be like less effort to like put on the screen. If they did that every single time, it would be better, right?
I mean, I guess anything is better than ugly ass CG.
Yeah.
And I mean, if I had my way, I would just been like, hey, just make this a couple 2D characters, delay the show by a season. Who cares?
I mean, yeah, obviously that's the ideal world, but like, I'm thinking
not
more
the world we
practically.
live in.
Yeah, like, just put a still frame, because I'd rather have that than CG. Like that'll just, like, obviously it's not ideal. It's not ideal. But just do it. It's better than CG. It's better than the alternative. You don't have to like model all the characters. You can just like spray a bunch of pixels on there and make like some shitty looking 2D character. It'll at least mesh with the art style.
And it gets me worried, like, hey, there's the second cur of this show is gonna come out in fall as of right now. So are you gonna bombard us with CG crowd shots then too? Like the goal of getting me to watch more of your show after it's done is to like give me reasons to like not worry about it. But the CG crowd shots is the one issue that I have, and it's not, once again, not a deal breaker. There are much worse looking shows, and you know what? There are even shows that I've gone to bat for certain shows that may not have CG crowd shots per se, but do not have the best art or do not have the best animation, but I enjoyed in spite because the story's that good, and the story and characters of Spy X Family are really fucking good. It's just I really wish I could give it the unqualified praise that it probably deserves.
In terms of the art style of the show in general, and like all the animation, I was saying consistent, and I really, really like that about the show, because I always use My Dress
It
Up
never
Darling
dips.
as the example, because it's really convenient for a lot of things. My Dress Up Darling had like insanely good animation for like the first few episodes, and then from there it always looked, well, almost always looked good, except for when it was replacing backgrounds with like literal shots on a camera from real life. But when it wasn't doing that, it on the whole looked consistently good, but it never got to like those peaks of animation of the first few episodes, because that's how most anime are, right? They always,
I don't know what you're talking about, man. That shot of Kitagawa hitting her thighs with her legs and seeing the ripple go through her legs, that was the greatest animated shot I've ever seen in my life.
There were always stuff like that, but I hope you can agree with me that like episodes 1 through 2 were definitely the peak of the show.
Episode 2 had fucking, it was all fan service, but you know what? It's good fucking fan service. It was exquisitely fluid, well animated fan service in episode 2, and the show does not reach that animation peak again. But it does come close a few times. It never dips into the bad category. Like I'll never look at the animation.
But other than that,
well, yeah, well, if we're talking like the backgrounds and whatnot, and like doing that thing where they increase the size of the background by zooming in without that fucks with the resolution. Yeah, that's bad. But if we're talking like the animation on the characters, I don't think it ever got to a point where it was like, ooh, that's ugly.
Yeah, it never gets ugly, but my point is that there was a general decline, and that is most anime. Happens with Bakemonogatari too, just to name another example out there. Happens with everything. But Spy X Family,
not in this one.
Not in this one. And I prefer when shows are like that. Like, you know, sure, if you really put all your budget into the first few episodes, you can get a few really, really, really good looking episodes. But it's like, I want that divvied out evenly among the episodes. You know, that's how you get that's how you get good looking shows. You don't get, you know, you want a good looking show, not a good looking 3 episodes, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. I will say, I am remembering it now. There was one moment throughout the entirety of the 7 episodes thus far where I felt like the animation was a little iffy, And I don't know if you'll remember this. I think it was in episode 2 during that little like diamond jewel heist where they were smear framing the fuck out of Twilight while he was like fighting those dudes, and it didn't look awful, but it's not the best smear framing I've ever seen in my life.
I do not remember that. Like
It was like he was getting he was like fighting all those dudes outside that warehouse at night, and he was like kind of moving a little like a noodly, a little goofily, because that's what smear framing is. And it wasn't bad, but it was the one shot throughout all of the show thus far. I was like, aside from the CG crowd shots, I was like, ooh, that's kind of not up to the par of everything.
But yeah.
And I will say, like, the animation, it is good, and it doesn't decline like most TV anime do after the first few episodes. It's maintained its quality thus far. But that, in fairness, it is only because they have rarely had any necessity to, like, go all out with the animation. Aside from episode 5, which is partly why it's my favorite of the 7 thus far, where they went fucking ham, and the animation was incredible, and like everything about the scene was incredible. They had a fucking insert song, hello, and it sounded like the goddamn James Bond theme.
Episode 5, that one scene from episode 5 had like my mouth wide open, like, what is even happening? This is amazing. Trying to think if it's my favorite moment in the show. I'm not sure if it's my favorite moment in the show, but it is like at least top.
I know my favorite moment in the whole show thus far.
What's your favorite moment in the show?
I want you to say yours first, because I think if I say mine, you might end up agreeing with me.
I'm thinking back because I don't have a favorite moment thought up yet. Because there's just a lot of really good ones.
All right, I'll say mine then. Episode motherfucking 4, the episode that got me on board to the Spy X Family train.
I think I know what you're talking about now.
Yeah, I was already spoiler alert for the seasonal Spring Part 2 podcast, but I think everyone who was there agreed that Spy X Family was the show of the season.
Literally everyone did. I mean, I guess we technically didn't get Casual's opinion, but I think he agrees with us.
I would not be surprised at all if Casual said it was his favorite too.
Unless he goes with E-Stab Life, then I'll fucking E-Stab him.
Just to be contrarian. And even though it was my favorite of the season, I was like, I don't get the 9 out of 10 hype. It's like, it's not my favorite, and I do enjoy watching the show. I think it is a good show, but like, I wasn't head over heels for it immediately like I was for My Dress Up Darling. Until episode 4, where it hits us with so far the emotional peak of the show, which I have no doubt that could easily change within the next 5 episodes. But in episode 4, they're the Forgers. They're going for the interview. The shenanigans ensue because apparently these insane sociopathic bastards at Eden College, the school that Anya's trying to get into, are testing the students and the families as they're walking into the school, trying to they're judging them based on like how they maintain themselves in public and how specifically how elegant they are, as dictated by the headmaster. What I need to know his name. I will not be happy with myself. Headmaster Henderson. Which God damn it, I'm getting myself off track, but I just wanted to point this out because of how funny I think it is. This has to be on purpose, but all of the side characters, the important side characters, names are alliterations. We got, what was it, Becky
Blackwell.
Blackwell?
Yeah, Blackwell.
Becky Blackbell, Damien Desmond, Headmaster Henderson. What was the orange-haired witch-looking lady's name? Like Sylvia Sturgeon or something?
All right. The orange-haired, she's Sylvia Sherwood. Yeah,
Sylvia Sherwood, and of course, Frankie Franklin.
That
who
is
might be
incredible.
The true unsung hero of the whole show.
Oh, and you said Headmaster Henderson. His first name is Henry.
Yep. I love it.
Donovan, Desmond, Emily Elman. There's just a lot of alliteration names. Even the main characters, like Your Forger. That's a little bit.
What?
Your Forger. It kind of rhymes a little bit.
It rhymes, but it's
not alliteration.
It's the furthest from an alliteration you can probably get.
Yeah, I misspoke a little bit. But it does rhyme a little bit.
It kind of rhymes. But yeah, I was just saying, they're judging, the headmaster is judging them all based on their elegance, and they're doing stuff. They even have like kids try to get themselves in situations to test the parents and the families to see how they would react to certain situations, like when that one kid was stuck in the sewer grate on purpose, trying to get them messy, and then Chad Twilight just had like several different outfit changes packed in a suitcase for just such an occasion.
Honestly, the comedy in that show was probably like I'm trying to remember if there's any scenes that outdid it in the first 3 episodes, but that scene was like probably the funniest scene of the show when it first appeared. The comedy in this show really hits.
Yeah, and then there's an accidental letting loose of the animals. A stampede is going on, and a bovine is charging directly at the family, and Yor just fucking rushes in, 2-taps it, and it just goes down. And then someone online did, there's a kind of viral tweet going around about like how, man, Twilight Lloyd Forger, the man of 1,000 faces, the greatest spy in the world, was not suspicious of his wife at all, who was able to two-shot a cow to near death.
Oh god.
And like it is a little weird that he's so not suspicious of her at all, and be like, it's weird that this civil servant has all this like talent for combat and keeps a cool head in like dangerous situations.
I can buy into it. It's not enough to sway my suspension of disbelief.
Yeah. And then yet another change of clothes, because in this really fucking badass shot where she takes down the cow, she like tears her dress a little, and it's not that this like would matter at all, but like it's not in a fan service. Oh, we can see like her under boob, or we get a nice shot of her cleavage, or any shit like that. Her like it's just like the hem of her dress tears, the shoulder of it tears a little, because she's doing these big sweeping movements that you're not supposed to do in dresses like that. And the fucking pose that she strikes after she does it, and the fucking stone cold killer look in her eyes. Every time Yor goes into assassin mode, it's always a highlight.
All right, this is like only semi-related, but I need someone, once both cores of this show have aired, I just want someone to make a compilation on YouTube, Yor kicking people's asses compilation. Because I would watch the hell out of that. Yeah, it's every single time it happens. It, like, gets me so
me a
pumped.
woman like Yor Breyer in my life.
Probably my favorite moment actually of her kicking ass is in episode 6 when when she's taking down like the people who they steal Anya.
I'm her mother, you son of a bitch. And then fucking splits a pumpkin in half into pieces with her bare hand.
That was amazing. That's probably my favorite scene of Yor kicking people's asses, but I mean, every time it happens, like, I am here for it.
And then they get to the interview, and then it's going well so far, but then this motherfucking bastard, what was it, the headmaster Swan or something? The ugliest bastard you ever did see, straight out of a hentai. He's being a total dick. He's a fucking misogynist piece of shit, and he's berating Anya. Like, at first it's like passive aggressively, her and the family, but then they get to one particular question as they're interviewing Anya. This is the moment that Lloyd and Yor have been training for to get her into the school, because if they don't pass the interview, she ain't getting in. And everything's going well so far, and then they get to the question, how would you rate your parents? And then in a really beautiful, heartwarming scene, Anya, without any hesitation, just says a perfect 100 points. I love my mama and papa so much. They make my life so happy. And you can see like how amazed and stunned Twilight and Yor are, because they're just they even though they're a fake family and it's gonna become a real family soon. It's just real nice to see them all being brought together.
Honestly, that entire scene, I mean, you'll get to it soon, but the entire thing is like a complete rush of emotions.
And it's a really, really heartwarming scene. And then this motherfucker has the audacity to look Anya in the eyes and be like, all right, who do you prefer? Your old mother or your new mother? And like Twilight is like, you can tell he's trying to maintain his composure a little, but he's like, hey, can I request that you ask something else? I don't think that's fair to my kid. And he's being a real dick about it, being like, no, you gotta answer. It's part of the interview, or else I'll fail her. With like, how do you like your family life, kid? And then like Lloyd's like trying to think about all of the possibilities that, like, what kind of childhood or relationship that Anya had with her real parents, and wondering like how she would react to the situation. And then we see the single tear fall from her eye, and we see the change in Lloyd's expression, and then the camera tilts up to her face, and just the tears are flowing down, and all she can say and think about is her actual birth mom, and how she can't bring herself to say or think about anything else. And then the motherfucker being like, haha, so you do prefer your old mother. And like, Yor's about ready to snap his fucking neck. Cause like the look that she gives him when it's like, oh, your kid's gonna cry over a trifling matter like this, she'll never survive in this school. And she's like, you think this is trifling? And she's already got the fucking the shadow on her face, the finger cracking, the bones in her fingers as she's like getting ready to rip his fucking throat out. And then Twilight, like, as he's been trying to maintain his composure the whole time, he leans forward, reels his fist back with the look of death in his eyes, and like Swan turns to him and like he's expecting a punch to the face, and then we cut away, and then the table in front of them is smashed to pieces, and Lloyd is bleeding from the fist, and he's like, sorry, there was a mosquito. I got it. And then it's like, all right, fuck y'all. We're gonna consider other options. If this is how you're gonna treat our daughter, we've clearly made a mistake choosing this school. Good day, sir. And as they're leaving, Henderson is like conflicted about all of this, being like, hey man, Swan, that was out of line, man. That's not what you should do as a headmaster. And then he turns around, all still pompous, being like, hey, I'm like, I have a really high ranking position with the board of education or whatever, and even though you're like a higher rank than I am, I can still I can make some calls, and I have this position of power over you, so you better watch what you say around me. And then Henderson is like thinking about like, I gotta maintain like the elegance for the school. If I don't stand up for the kids, for the students, then I cannot call myself an elegant educator. And then it's like, no, Swan, you're the one who is cringe. And then he fucking punches him in the face himself and sells me on that character entirely. And then as he's like wiping off his hand, he's like, that was very elegant if I do say so myself. And I stood up and I applauded.
That entire, like, the second half of episode 4, it was just so fucking good. Like, the first half is like amazing just because it's like, you know, super funny comedy, probably the funniest scene of the show up to that moment. But the second half of that episode, like when Anya started crying, that legit got me emotional. Like, I'm not sure if it did that for you, but I was like, that hits me.
On like the base, on the surface level, I see a cute little Anya crying, and like, oh yeah, I feel I'm not made of stone. My heart is getting tugged at a little, but like, I'm not like on the verge of sobbing because like, all right, well, like clearly, obviously they're doing this to get Lloyd and Yor like to get them angry, but it's also setting up this intrigue. It's like now we have this kind of mystery set up, being like, all right, what we don't know what Anya's relationship with her actual birth parents are, and we already know that she's a science experiment, which is how she got her Esper powers. So it's those two factors are tied together, and we're no doubt gonna find out what exactly is her relationship with them as the show goes on. But this is just the tease. This is just the carrot on the stick.
Well, hey, it's a pretty good effect. It's a pretty effective carrot on a stick, if I do say so myself. I was like, that entire scene is amazing. Like you were saying that episode 4 sold you on the show. I was honestly sold from the beginning pretty much, but episode 4 was when it really got to the point where it's like, I'm completely in love with this. Although episode 3 also did a lot for me. Like I know we've sort of skipped over it so far, but it's like, it's a very almost traditional slice of life show, basically meant to set up the dynamics of all the characters and like how they function in a group setting. You know, they're going out to a bunch of different places. I think they go to like a museum. They're just talking to each other, and it really sold me on the idea that these characters have like a genuine chemistry with each other, and they're genuinely fun to just watch exist in this world. Like even those kinds of scenes are amazing.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I love when Anya is drawing her parents as the spy and the assassin that they are, and she's like, "Oh no, I can't let mom and dad see this, or else they'll know that I know about their true identities." And she's like trying to cover it up as best she can, but they get to her in time, and they're like, "Oh, that's a cute drawing of the spy cartoon." And I forget what they say about Yor in particular. If she makes it look like she's cooking or something, or like an elephant or an animal, and because her drawings, because she's just a fucking like 6-year-old girl that she's just so shit that they can't tell. Like that's fucking cute.
There was the parts where like Yor's blushing over deadly weapons. That immediately made me like, oh yes, I am on the Yor train. I'm
very fascinated to find out how she seems to be like, not just kind of romantically, but also like, well, maybe sexually is going a little too far, but at least she gets a little hot and bothered when she's looking at that painting of the guillotine and being like, oh, it's so beautiful. And she's even like looking at her knife, like kind of rubbing her finger along the sharp edge of the point of it, being like, oh, it's so beautiful. Because we already know that she takes like a weird, like romantic. She like that. I can't find the words for it because we don't know the origin of it. But she finds this weird attraction to taking other people's lives.
Based. That's all I can say. It's really immediately funny, endearing, fascinating a little bit. And also just works as a little bit of comedy in like a group setting. Like episode 3 is full of just small little character gags like that really make you immediately endeared to the characters. You know, if episodes 1 and 2 are the setup to like, hey, these characters exist, here's what they're about. Episode 3 is like, okay, here's where we're going to truly be like, these are their charm. Here's how they're going to talk to each other. Here's what you should expect from their dynamic going forward. Really good stuff.
And while we're talking about how cute Yor is, we gotta talk about drunk Yor.
That was
the beast.
So basically, in episode 5, they're celebrating Anya getting into the school, and they put on this full-on party, and Yor's just kind of in the scene, completely drunk, as sort of like a bumbling distraction the entire time, and it's absolutely hilarious and makes me want to hug her. Well, if I hugged Yor, she'd probably like stab me in her drunkenness, but
she'd crush your spine into like dust.
Yeah. But she's just there.
I think my favorite.
Oh, go on.
I was gonna say my favorite moment in that episode with Yor is like, even aside from her badass fight scene that she has with Twilight, once again setting up what I think is inevitable. I don't know if it happens in the manga, and manga readers, if you're watching, keep your fucking mouth shut. But if because it's gotta be inevitable when she gets tasked with assassinating Lloyd, or something is going to happen that with their professions that puts them into direct opposition. and that's gonna be a very interesting point in the show. But just seeing them fight, that's the teaser.
Yeah, they're
That's
definitely that's
a
another
sign of
carrot
things
on
to
the
come.
stick. Yeah, and it made me
But
want
even
it.
aside
It
from-
worked.
Aside from that moment, my favorite was like as they're assigning roles, like Papa will be the hero Bond man, Frankie will be the evil villain, Mama could just be whoever she's there, and she's like Gah! Like the noise that she makes while she's drunk.
That's hilarious.
It's so fucking cute. I think she still has the wine bottle in hand, and like the wine bottle and glass, like that she carried with her from their apartment.
There's just something really endearing about this show's sort of it's difficult to put into words, but like the way it twists, normal family stuff into really funny, intriguing situations. Like episode 5 is essentially just two parents and like their friends playing with a kid, but it turns into like this huge stakes, buying out an entire castle, getting a bunch of workers in Lloyd's sort of thing. I'm very good at wording myself, in case you couldn't tell.
It
Playing
was
with
very
Anya and
hilarious
joining
how he has to make it a phone call being like, I need as many agents as possible for this. It like Operation Strix depends on all of these people coming out to participate in this event for my daughter.
Don't
and then
ask questions,
the
it's
people
important.
And yeah, and then the people running the operation say, hey, Twilight is the greatest spy in the world. If he says he needs it, he fucking needs it. Send out all of our available agents. And they all go, and they all have this big, awesome, well-animated scene of him, like, dodging, like, rubber ball guns and, just fighting all these dudes. And they're all excited to be like, oh, I can't believe I get to throw hands with the Twilight. I'm so honored. I'll give him my all.
Another thing I really like about episode 5 in particular is like Anya, making him save her and being like, oh yeah, I need to go through this and then that. Then you're gonna like reach me, and she, like, it's just really cute seeing Lloyd go through that, and it makes Anya so happy. It's like a heart melting scene.
I love how she's having him do spy stuff, and like this is like outside of the costume, which is like probably what he's most embarrassed about. He would do this kind of shit on the regular before the whole operation with the family. So it's really hilarious to see him be all flustered and embarrassed to do spy stuff directly in front of his kid and in front of the other agents.
That's also really endearing for Lloyd too. Like something
He's
I
trying
think
to maintain this image of being this like unflappable spy, and here he is putting on a little song and dance number for his kid just to make her happy.
Something
And all of the spies respect him for it.
Yeah.
They don't be like, huh, he's like, they never once think, man, Twilight's gotten soft. It's like, no, he's like so fucking dedicated. Holy shit. I wish I could be as cool as Twilight someday.
Something I guess we've kind of been getting at this entire time is that Spy X Family is a very holistically good show. Like, there's the cute moments, there's the cool moments, there's normal slice of life stuff, and then there's like an actual plot going on in the background. Sometimes
It covers all the bases.
Yeah, it covers all the bases. It's a jack of all trades, but also master of quite a few.
It's the way that it blends all of them together like a fine dish that you can't really get from anywhere else. Of course, there are like stories similar in nature to this, but it's this kind of show. It's like shit like this. I kind of already knew that the found family trope is one of my favorite tropes to use in fiction. But like between this, Owl House Amphibia, and even going so far back, it's like with Dragon Maid. I think like it's just reaffirming to me that the found family might just be my favorite trope in all of fiction. Because you know damn well that they're gonna be the perfect family even when the mission is over.
I mean,
And
episode
we're just seeing
7
the steps
has
they
gotten
take
us
to how they get to
very-
that point.
Yeah, episode 7 has already gotten us pretty damn close to that point, with Lloyd being like, no, like, okay, so yours like, but or at least I think this is how it goes,
Yeah, yours trying to give advice, and she's like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I'm butting into family affairs," because she still thinks that Anya is Lloyd's biological daughter.
Yeah, And then
And
he's like, no,
and
no, you are part of our family. You know, you're her mom. You're my wife. You know, we're a family. And it's like that scene was like, yes, yes.
I fucking am salivating at the prospects of seeing the scenes of Lloyd and Yor being cute and like actually falling in love with each other, because we know it's one of those inevitabilities that just has to happen in this kind of show, but I'm looking forward to it.
It's oh god, I can't wait for it. When Lloyd and Yor kiss, just think about that. Just think about the pure ecstasy that scene will be.
I think if judging by like the patterns of this type of show, I would not be surprised if they have to like kiss at one point, not because they have a romantic moment, but because they're like trying to fit in socially or something. Like maybe they're like at some kind of party or event and they just like kiss to show that they are like a married couple or something. I don't know. I don't know what the possible context could be for it, but it's probably gonna happen not out of romance, but out of like necessity for the mission. But I would not also be surprised if, because of that kiss, they both feel, at least one of them feels a little spark.
I mean, hey, either way, I'm down for it. You know, carrot on a stick, like you said. I'm being dragged along completely of my own volition.
Speaking of relationships, let's talk about how the Chad Anya is slowly turning Damien into her bottom.
I
Which
phrase
I know,
it like that.
I know it's very. I was half thinking about it as I was saying it, being like, yeah, okay, I know, like they're both 6, but like, all right, straight up, his whole thing that they're angling Damien with is that he's like this rich, spoiled kid who's like, oh, I've never been defied, even though I'm this little fucking pipsqueak. Because I have this wealthy position, and not even my brothers ever hit me, and yet this little girl, this little common peasant child, has the audacity to strike me in the face. Where does she get off? Why is my heart beating so fast because of this? He is literally attracted to her because she is the first person to stand up to him. I don't know what else to obviously. Like, I'm spinning it for comedic effect, but like straight up, what else do you call it?
Honestly, like the first half of episode 7 with like Damien and Anya and him slowly falling for her and her, you know, trying to apologize for literally punching him in the face, like that entire first half of the episode. Like, honestly, I think episode 7 might be my favorite. Recency bias, I know. But, like, it's so densely packed with stuff going on. You know, you start off with, like, you know, the fun stuff with Anya at school. You go back home, and it's, like, you know, Lloyd and Yor becoming more of a family than ever before. And then at the end, like, the tease of Yor's brother. Like, it's so densely packed with things to love.
Yeah, it looks like Yor's brother Yuri is gonna be like the last important side character, going off of what we've seen in the opening and the ending. Because I don't think, aside from Yuri, we haven't been introduced to any of we haven't not been rather introduced to any other character yet. Because we've already seen Frank, we've seen Sylvia, we've seen the headmaster Damien and Becky. And I think Yuri's like the last one to show up.
Maybe. Something.
And he's.
Actually, I was really surprised by his introduction, like, at this point in the show, because it seemed to me like we're going to continue down, you know, the path of Anya being at school. Like, obviously it is going to continue down that, but I thought it was going to be, you know, developing this arc for a little while longer before, you know, you throw in a new element. But it's like, no, immediately, you know, we're adding a new ingredient to this stirring pot, and honestly, I'm here for it.
Hey, maybe it's going to go. I have no doubt that they're gonna make it good. I've been given no reason to think that it wouldn't, because as far as the story's gone so far, they've been batting 100.
So a confession about how my seasonal experience usually goes, which is that usually I start off really liking a show, and then eventually, you know, as the weeks go on, you know, I guess because it's harder to keep your investment over a very long period of time, you know, as you're watching a show piecemeal week by week. And I think that makes it so that, like, I'm almost destined to slowly fall out of love as I watch it weekly. You know, even with the shows I ended up really liking, like My Senpai is Annoying, that had some like episodes that weren't as good, and I was feeling a bit iffy about them. And you know, most seasonals are like, I'm by the end, and really by the halfway point, I'm like, oh, this isn't as good as when I first started it. Spy X Family has been the opposite. Literally every new episode makes the show better in some way. Like, you know, it starts off with like, you know, a pretty solid dynamic of the family, but like honestly, like once Anya starts going to school, that just makes the dynamic of the show even more enjoyable to me. Like Anya being basically the protagonist in a lot of ways, and then you know you've got the family stuff always simmering in the background, but then Anya going out, you know, to help with the mission at school. Like I think that sort of combination of elements for the show is more interesting than just the family stuff on its own. You know, Anya going to school and it being sometimes a school-based comedy with also her being, you know, doing the mission. There's just more elements, but each element on its own is also really good. And so putting them together, you get more good.
I really like how a lot of pressure, like we talk about Anya being the protagonist. I like how she has this pressure on her to succeed, not for just like to make her parents happy and because like, you know, kids in school should try to succeed, but she also has this pressure that if I don't do everything that my dad needs me to do or is thinking about, the world will fucking end, or at least she thinks that world peace will not be achieved, which she might be entirely right. Maybe World War fucking 3 will happen in this universe if this mission goes awry. So she's got a lot on her plate for a fucking 6-year-old. And she's like trying her hardest. Like when she's breaking down, crying, trying to apologize to Damien, not just because, that's an interesting facet. She's apologizing to Damien, not because like she is trying to forgive him because she wants to be his friend, but because like she's like doing it to appease like her father's goal to help him with his mission. And like she's getting flustered because while she's trying to apologize to him, she's reading his friends' thoughts who are all thinking of like ways to make fun of her. And like as she's crying and trying to apologize, be like, "I'm sorry for having short, stubby legs." It's like there's so much pressure is being put onto this child. And, like you just want to give her a hug, be like, "It's okay. Things are gonna be okay."
Every time Anya is like freaking out over, you know, people's thoughts, because sometimes, you know, she hears like when she's in a crowded area, it's like everyone's, you know,
in episode 4 when she was in that like political rally and she heard all those people's like differing thoughts on the situation, like how some of them were like violent and kind of low-key kind of racist, and she was like getting like really stressed out and bleeding from the nose.
Yeah, it's like every time that happens, I just want to hug
heavy.
her. Yeah, she's a child with a lot on her plate, and that makes her...
She didn't ask for these powers. They were forced onto her.
But it's like, you know, the idea of her being a mascot is completely out the window at this point. Like, she is a full-on character and, like, a genuinely fascinating
once we get the full flashback episode about how the horrible experiments whoever gave her those Esper powers is revealed to us, like, all pretense of her being a mascot will be thrown out the window, even in spite of all of the memes that she will produce, which leads me into 2 points that are connected to each other. One, Anya is the newest addition to the reaction image generator, because holy shit, her art is incredible. Her facial expressions, obviously the legendary face, but every time her eyes go wide and her pupils get small, she's very adorable.
The one face she makes, I'm trying to describe it visually, but like it generally happens when she's shocked. Her eyes are like an arch.
Oh yeah, when she
like at the bottom,
her mouth goes into this like this trapezoid shape. Her eyes dilate a little. They don't become pinholes, but they become smaller. She gets like the dark shading and sort of like a purple shading on her forehead, being like,
Yeah, there's like one frequent face too, where it's kind of like that. It doesn't always have the purple shading, but like, it's generally used to express shock. That that face is used everywhere in the show, and I'm so glad it is, because that's like such a good expression for Anya. It's very funny. Every time it happens, I'm just like, good expression. Really good expression.
And her expressions lead me into the second part of this point, and that's I was at MegaCon in Florida this past weekend. I went there for Friday and Sunday of that convention, and I was shocked to see the amount of Spy X Family merch that was there after only the show had been out for 6 episodes. Episode 7 came out during the convention. And I saw like way more Anya merch than I thought. Granted, mind you, it was like mostly Anya merch and maybe a couple yours and even fewer Twilights. But there was, for something being so recent, and not to say that the manga wasn't already prolific before the anime came out, because people were. That's part of the reason why this show is so hyped up, because it's a anticipated manga adaptation. Kind of like how I saw a bunch of Chainsaw Man stuff. Even I saw more Chainsaw Man stuff than I did Spy X Family at the convention, and that the anime hasn't even come out yet. So when the show actually comes out, that's gonna spike even harder. But I've been seeing stickers. I saw cute little fan art, mostly all of her meme faces. I think my favorite one is this shirt that is just like the manga panel of her doing the meme smile, and it just has a speech bubble next to it that says "you fucking weeb." And I'm very tempted to buy it. Like, my only problem is getting those kinds of shirts is that I can't wear them in public. Otherwise, I mean, if I could, I would. But like, you know, there are kids out in public being like it's a struggle.
I actually have a similar story. I mean, I guess it's kind of similar. But like, I was at Barnes and Noble the other day, right? I buy a lot of light novels and manga. That's just a thing I do now. And I was like, hey, maybe I should try checking out the Spy Family manga. And I look for the manga. They have none of the first volume, none of the second volume, none of the third volume. The earliest volume you can get is 4. And it's like sad, but also I completely get it. You know, there's so many people that are so interested in this show right now.
That is always where like popular anime get their manga sales peaks. It's like, if it's good, then it'll sell on its own. But if the anime is good, people are gonna jump on the manga. It's exactly what happens to every popular anime. I think the most recent big success that we've seen of that is Demon Slayer. How after the anime came out, the manga fucking rocketed up in sales. Like, you go back, like, if you look at the history of a chart of Demon Slayer Volume 1 sales, it's like, all right, it's good. Season 1 of the anime comes out, and then like there's a point where it's like, I think either like the show is midway done, or it hit episode 19, or it ended, and it's like a fucking almost a straight vertical line, not even just like a diagonal, almost a fucking vertical line of it's going so high.
We've all heard the statistic that Demon Slayer sold more than the entire American comic industry, which is just insane. But that's a little off topic.
It did?
Yeah.
Wait. Okay. Wait. In terms of like history or that year?
I'm not actually sure.
Because literally no fucking way that it's all of history.
Well, not all of history. Probably, like, definitely not all history.
I would not be surprised if it sold more than American comics, like in the same year.
Yeah, that's
it didn't it outsell One Piece?
I'm not
that
sure.
year.
It probably did.
And like there's a qualification for that where it's like One Piece will still have like the overall greater sales, but for like the first time in like over a decade, I think Demon Slayer was like, hey, what if we just sold more volumes of our manga than One Piece does in like their timeline? And granted, One Piece is at what, fucking volume 100, and it was at like in the volume in the 90s when when it's got its record broke, and Demon Slayer had its first season anime buff. So it was all kind of privileged, but even still, to even challenge the God King of manga sales right now in One Piece at all, it is a feat in and of itself.
Yeah.
Also, this is a very weird aside and kind of off topic. Have you noticed that One Piece is getting like bigger, like in popularity recently?
I haven't actually noticed that. Granted, I don't really pay much attention to One Piece.
I swear, like, I haven't seen it yet either, and who knows? Maybe if we want to kill ourselves one day, we can make it into a podcast show. We'll have to consider it after Bleach, but if I've just noticed, like, ever since like either episode 1000 or like where the manga is at currently, I feel like more people have been getting into like either catching up with the manga or the anime.
To be fair,
that's something I noticed.
It's always kind of been in like the trending anime and manga. Like I'm looking at anime or Annie list right now. It's number 2 on the trend. It's always in the top 5 trending in Annie list.
Yeah, is Spy X Family number 1 by chance?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Alright, speaking of Spy X Family, I think that is all that I have to say about these first 7 episodes. Do you have anything you'd like to add?
I want to I want to state a full appreciation of how much I stand this show, because I'm not sure if I've put it into perspective. Well, actually, I have 2 more things to say. One, actually, no, I already said that. Okay, never mind. I have 1 more thing to say. And that this is definitely the best seasonal anime experience I've probably ever had. I just said probably, definitely, probably, but yeah, yes, ever. And granted, I normally so the way I would consume seasonal anime is that I generally watch like 1 show per season. Obviously, this podcast has changed it a little bit, but before this podcast,
and now
I'd
we
watch
do
either
2 shows a season.
Yeah, I've also been kind of inconsistently keeping up with Aharon at this point. I've seen the first 6 episodes of that, which, by the way, Aharon fell off. It's like a 6 out of 10 now. But anyway.
Who would have guessed?
Who would have guessed? But Spy Family has been so consistently good. Like, okay, so for context, I watched the first episode and was sad that I couldn't watch the second episode. Then the second episode came out, and I was sad that I couldn't watch the third episode. And after that, I sort of, I stopped being outright disappointed that I couldn't immediately binge the show. And then I watched episode 7, and that sadness came back. I am outright upset that I can't immediately continue the show. But it's like, it's so good because I can just wait, and, every week there's like a new fun episode to watch. And like, normally with seasonal anime, right, I fall behind. It happens every single time. And
Dragon Maid.
Dragon Maid, yeah. To be fair, that might have been that probably would have been a better seasonal experience had I kept up with it. And I almost regret not doing it. But anyway, normally I fall behind. Every single episode of Spy Family, I have watched it within the first 2 days of it having aired. Every single episode, because I'm always just jumping for the first chance to watch the episode because it's so good. And I guess my overall score for this, do you want to give a score to the first 7 episodes? Well, here first, I'll hear you.
If I were to give a score, I would say it's like, granted, this is all just a preliminary, of course. It's hovering between, at the very worst, it's an 8. At the best, it's a 9.
I'm going to give this one a very, very solid 9 out of 10. Very solid 9 out of 10. Insanely
I
solid
definitely
9 out
see
of 10.
myself. I definitely see myself giving the show like a 9 by the end of it, unless like the last few episodes have some fucking like blow my brains out, incredible. I've never seen anything like this shit that happens in the last few episodes. Then it might knock on the door to the Masterpiece Club, to the 10 out of 10 cool guys only club, that where shows like DBZ, Dragon Maid, Eizouken, and the newer seasons of Love is War is currently at. Which, by the way, another aside, Love is War Season 3, as of now, is looking to join Season 2 in that Masterpiece Club. We don't count sequels. I was gonna say, we don't count sequels for show of the season in terms of, for fairness' sake. But I am enjoying Love is War Season 3 more than Spy X Family. And to be fair, it is the third season of a show that I adore and is one of my all-time favorites, so that's kind of not fair. This is more of a watch Love is War and Spy X Family, because that's two shows this season that are incredible to watch. Whereas last season, you had, what? Demon Slayer, Attack on Titan, boring. Dress Up Darling, that's the good shit. Say Akabi Sailor Uniform, I've heard that gets really fucking good from the previews that I've seen. I haven't finished it yet, but I loved it, what little I saw of it before, so I have no doubt that I'll love that when I go back to it.
Just to put it a little more into perspective, my opinion, like when I say solid 9 out of 10, if I had to put a decimal on it, it'd be like a 9.6, 9.7 at this point. It's really, really good. Like I'm absolutely adoring it.
Hearing you say that you're sad that you can't immediately watch the next episode, that is me with the Owl House, so I understand exactly where you're coming from. Like, to have that sort of, like, a level of attachment to the show, being like, what do you mean I have to wait fucking 128 hours? I need to know what happens now!
Exactly. That's basically what I'm like with this show. It's going to be... I don't think I'll be able to not immediately catch up on the manga. I don't think I'll be able to hold out until the second core.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, actually, to be fair, that is limited by my wallet, but...
Yeah, I mean, you could also just read the manga, catch up to where we are in the anime, and by the time you spend your money on that, the second core will probably have started to come out.
Okay, yeah, it might go like that. We'll see.
And like, so hearing you get excited about that, it makes me really excited to when we eventually get to the Owl House and March Comes Like a Lion arc of the podcast.
I cannot wait to show you Sangatsu no Lion. I got my dad into Sangatsu no Lion. That's how good Sangatsu no Lion is. He doesn't even watch anime. I got my dad into it.
It's always been on the back of my head, being like, it's one of those shows where I think if I watch it, I know that I'll love it, but I gotta find the right time. I need to watch it during a time where I have, which is weird to say, but I need to have when I have less good things to watch, so that way I can have a good thing to watch. I need to wait for, like, when a season of anime is really fucking horrible and has nothing worth watching, and, like, when all of my favorite shows are on hiatus or, like, are done. Which, hey, Amphibia's done now, so that's an open spot in my schedule. That's probably going to be taken up by the other shows in the podcast, like Made in Abyss and Bleach, but
yeah,
we'll cross that bridge when we get there.
I mean, hey, Sangatsu no Lion, it's 44 episodes, so you can fill quite a lot of time with it.
Hey, so is the Owl House. By the time season 2 ends this Friday.
Well, we've gotten very far from talking about Spy Family, but hey, that's just how that's how it goes.
All of this conversation does tie back to the point of Spy X Family is just another good show to add to the pile of good animated shows that are out there right now. Because, all right, here's the last talking point I want to bring up before we end the episode. I noticed that maybe, obviously, it's different for each person, but it's really strange to me, or at least it's funny to me, that for 2 seasons in a row now, the most popular non-sequel show, mind you, the most popular show of the season is the best one. And that's not something that happens often.
To be fair, I have not seen enough seasonal anime. Like I said, I normally only watch one show per season. I haven't seen enough seasonal anime yet to quite verify that the most popular one normally isn't the best one. But I mean, hey.
I mean, granted, hey, maybe fucking your boy Kong Ming is gonna pull the greatest sneak attack of the century and actually be the true masterpiece. But as far as we are concerned right now, we've both agreed that Spy X Family is the best new show of the season. I think we both agree that Dress Up Darling is the best new show of last season. Maybe, I don't know if you are on the same Akabi train as I am, but maybe if we watch that at some point, not for the podcast, it's not that kind of show, but maybe that one's good.
Yeah. It could overtake Dress Up Darling, but granted, I rate Dress Up Darling a 7.5, so it's a bit easier to beat it in my ranking.
I forget what was your favorite show of the winter podcast of all the shows that we watched?
God,
what was it? Dress Up Darling?
If Dress Up Darling came out winter, then yeah, Dress Up Darling was my favorite of the winter podcast.
Okay.
Because the other one
I was looking back in the
was like I can never remember the title of the show because it's a billion words. Reincarnated as a total fantasy knockout. That one I did really like at first. Honestly, it kind of, as it went on, it did kind of like I got less enthusiastic about it, just because I didn't like the characters as much as I did in Dress Up Darling. And I was like, felt myself drifting back to that more often.
And then in the fall season, we ended up having to skip the podcast for that. But I think most of us would have been in agreement that Ranking of Kings would have, if we had watched it at the time, it would have topped the seasonal, our favorites for that season. And granted, that was a pretty decently stacked season between My Senpai is Annoying, Komi-san Can't Communicate. What else was good from that season? I know we have differing opinions on this, but the Heikei story, I really liked that.
I did not like the first episode. It wasn't bad, but just didn't really like it. I haven't caught up on Ranking of Kings, actually, but My Senpai is Annoying was the one that I finished, and I gave that like a solid 8. I really like that one. And then what was the Komi? I got really burnt out on the manga, so I'm not sure
Komi
if
was...
Like, I liked the first few episodes of Komi, even though I did criticize it in the one now probably deleted recording we did. But
yeah, Komi, it was the most popular show of that season, and because Ranking of Kings was so fucking good, I probably would enjoy Ranking of Kings more than Komi-san. So that's like where the streak ends. But like even going back to as far as when we started the podcast with summer 2021, and I don't think either of us have finished this show either. The most popular show of that season ended up being The Case Study of Vanitas.
Oh, yeah, that show. I really liked the first episode of that, but I need to get back to it.
And then I'm trying to think of like what... I'm looking through the list right now, seeing if there's like a better show. In terms of new shows, that season was kind of weak because I'm looking at the list right now, my mind just immediately gravitating to Dragon Maid Season 2, which doesn't count for the purposes of our discussion, but, like, it's fucking Dragon Maid, bro.
Yeah.
I mean, like, and it also doesn't help that it's the competition directly under Vanitas are The Detective is Already Dead, How a Realist Hero Rebuilt the Kingdom, Girlfriend, Suki Michi, Remake Our Life, Spirit Chronicles...
I think the only show I actually finished this is going to be the most depressing statement of my entire life, but I think the only show I finished of the summer 2021 season was Suki Michi, and I hate Suki Michi so much. I liked it during the podcast, and I want to punch my old self in the face because he didn't know what I was getting into.
And with that, I think we have now rambled on enough. This does tie back into the point of Spy X Family. We do think it is the best show of the season.
I actually have
and you
one
should
last
definitely watch
point.
it.
I have one last point about Spy Family. Overall, I'd say that the show's pretty good, but the Anya genocide scene was out of pocket.
Oh yeah, totally. When like that scene of like the hunt where she did the shadow clone jutsu and then 100 Anyas popped up behind her and they ran rampant throughout the streets of Westopolis or whatever the country is called. I was like, whoa, the show's taking a weird dark turn. I don't know how they're gonna bring it back to the wholesome family slice of life stuff in the next season, but
You know, it was pretty
it's-
it was well directed, but I'm just not sure if it fits with the vibe that this show is trying to go for, you know? I just don't think it fits.
And bro, that scene where like they had Damien's head on a stick and they were like dancing around it, that was kind of weird.
Yeah, it was just like, I didn't expect this show to
I
be
like
so
me a
dark.
Lord of the Flies reference as much as the next guy, but that was just kind of out of turn.
Yeah, and when Anya literally just starts shooting pedestrians on the seat, that was just weird. Not
And she
doesn't
says, "I don't
mesh.
recognize the state of Israel, Mom." And I was like, "Whoa, are we getting political now?"
Yeah, you know, I thought this show was mostly going to stay out of politics, but you know, when I was saying that stuff about Israel,
Brexit.
yeah, when Anya said "fuck Palestine," that was a bit of a weird moment.
Oh, she's on no one's side then. she doesn't recognize Israel
Yeah.
or Palestine.
Oh God, she's the ultimate centrist.
Or she just wants to watch the world burn.
She's chaotic.
Oh my god,
evil.
what if that is like the big twist of the whole show? What if Anya is like the most like a sleeper agent for like the most destructive world-ending power like in the world? What if she's like Psyche Kusuo levels of psychic power?
That would be insane. You know, it seems like a weird twist, but maybe it could work. I don't think it's averse to working.
Well, and with that, I think that we have said all we can about the first 7 episodes of Spy X Family. It's a big recommend. Go check it out. And once you're done checking it out, in fact, before you check it out, don't you dare click off of that tab just yet. Don't you open your preferred anime viewing tab of choice to watch the episode. First, you gotta pay your due diligence. If you like the podcast, leave a like, comment what you thought about Spy X Family, and of course, subscribe to the channel for more episodes. We'll be covering the rest of Spy X Family once the show is wrapped up, and we will definitely be covering the second core once it comes out in the fall. And the podcast will be over a year old at that point. Holy shit, the podcast is already approaching its 1 year anniversary.
Oh, I feel like a dilapidated old man.
And we're gonna be covering Made in Abyss. We're gonna be covering Bleach.
Sadly.
And those are the 2 main coming attractions right now. We don't have a time slot for Owl House and March Comes Like a Lion yet, but they are coming attractions.
They are on the back burner.
So look forward to that. Thank you very much for watching. I'm NeonManta,
And I'm Crunchy Bagels.
and you'll see us next time.